No, winning makes it fun. You know, there's no doubt that losing tears you up in this business. So let me give you some advice, young fella. Mr. Sheridan, what? He says, here's my advice to you as you start your coaching profession. He says, you always keep one bag packed. I said, okay. So I've always remembered Fran Sheridan's advice.
Dr. Tom, a class act, is a KCRG TV9 sports special. Now, here is TV9 Sports Director John Campbell.
Thank you and hello. The old trainer knew of what he spoke. The coaching profession and job security seldom go hand in hand. In reality, Tom Davis was an exception to the rule. He had a 13-year run as the head Hawkeye. That's the second longest in Iowa history. Now, in the next half hour, we will revisit some of the high points and some of the low points of his Hawkeye coaching career. But there's absolutely no doubt that Coach Tom Davis loves coaching, loves being around young men, loves putting the pieces together. After all, coaching is really the only thing Tom has ever done.
Most of us my age got into coaching as a teacher. We were in teacher training programs, and in the 50s, that was a highly respected profession that if you could go on and be a teacher, well, you'd be, good standing in your community and well thought of.
After leaving Wisconsin-Platteville, Tom Davis started coaching in the high school ranks. There were stops at Milledgeville, Illinois, and Portage, Wisconsin.
I can remember my first couple of years of high school coaching. The superintendent called me in and read me out because I'd stopped the bus on the way back from a high school game, and because they were celebrating or they're having too much fun and we had lost the game. And those of you that played, your high school coaches probably did the same thing, but I really blistered. I got after him. I used a few swear words in there, and well, maybe more than a few, I don't know. Superintendent called me in and said he had some complaints from some rather strong church members that they didn't like the language I was using with their sons. So I tried from that point on to not use language that would be offensive to any member of the team.
Tom Davis got his first college head coaching assignment at Lafayette in 1971, and the coaching caravan was on. 6 years at Lafayette were followed by 5 at Boston College and 4 at Stanford.
I was known as a mover for a while there. I moved on pretty regularly, but it's part of the profession. I'm not so sure that moving on isn't a good thing, especially early in your career, John, because you then get a chance to appreciate what you really want to do and where you want to do it.
Tom Davis was a gentleman's coach. You could count his technicals on one hand. Ripping the refs was not his style, so this strong statement after a rough game at Michigan State stands out.
And it was made right in front of another official standing there watching that play, and that looked clearly like an unbelievable call. And then obviously the last one. I got Ryan Bowen lying on his back in the training room. He's obviously in a lot of trouble, and I find that just unbelievable, those last 3 calls to decide that basketball game. That's all I got to say.
His public criticism of the media was also rarely heard. But early in his career at Iowa, he was certainly upset with published reports about a visiting team.
I tried to tell you, we tried to give you facts and everything as far as what they'd done in the past and what they would try to do. It just is an embarrassment to Iowa City in this area, the way they were treated in the media and what you said about them and the way you talked about them.
But those instances were rare, and his move up the coaching ranks was greatly admired by his old college coach, John Barth.
I can remember when we had a particular pass, he wanted to know why the pass had to be done that way. And I explained it to him. Then he would do it. He was the point guard there, and he played with some pretty good ball players. And when a freshman can lead a group of veterans, you've got a fine young man there.
What kind of ingredients do you see in him that make him a good coach?
I think he has a lot of compassion. He has a lot of humility and humbleness, which are his biggest traits. And that gets him by in the coaching a game of basketball.
Oh, yes, I know Tom quite well. I think he's one of the brightest minds in the game. I knew him when he coached at Stanford, before he came here, and I knew him prior to that. And I think Tom is an outstanding coach.
But he's not one of the real colorful coaches on the sidelines and everything. We don't see him...
Maybe that's one of the reasons I like him very much.
Nice words from the Wizard of Westwood. We'll have much more to come. When we return, we'll start at the beginning, the day Tom Davis was hired.
I think you sort of realize that when you get into this profession, that if you lose, you're not going to last too long. But I think I learned that about myself anyway, that if I lost, I've got to find something else to do, that this is too tough. This is too tough to do this and lose.
Tom Davis was on the verge of taking a coaching job at Houston when he received an urgent message from former Iowa coach Lute Olson to call him before he made any decisions. Well, Tom made that call, heard of the Iowa opening, and one thing led to another.
I'd like to introduce to you, gentlemen and ladies, our new basketball coach at the University of Iowa, Tom Davis.
The Midwestern ties, I think, led me to have a pretty good understanding of what life would be like as the basketball coach at the University of Iowa. So I come in, I think, with my eyes wide open in terms of the positives. There's so many other variables you just can't control that if you set too many specific goals, you set yourself up for heartache. So we just, hey, let's go in and be the best we can be.
And many of his Hawkeye teams were good. His first outfit was great.
They play very hard, very well. I think they're really well set up. I think that Tom Davis is probably as ideal a coach as there could possibly be to coach this particular group of players.
Horton, Marble, Lohas, Campbell, Armstrong and company reeled off 18 victories in a row and a record 30 wins on the season. One of the most memorable occurred in mid-January. The Hawkeyes rallied from a 22-point second-half deficit to beat Illinois in overtime.
Tremendous comeback by the Iowa Hawkeyes.
You always think you're going to come back from 22 down, you know.
But even as the victories were piling up, there was talk that Tom Davis was doing it with George Raveling's team.
You know, I've never had a problem with that because I just have always felt that now it was the school's team, you see. It wasn't the coach's team.
He calls the plays and things like that. I mean, he tells us what to do. So without Coach Davis, none of this would be possible. I mean, there's no way we could be this successful without Coach Davis.
At season's end, the Hawkeyes headed to Seattle for NCAA regional play. In Game 1, a dramatic 93-91 win over Oklahoma, Kevin Campbell scored a career-high 26, and this three-pointer was the game winner.
I got my feet under me, and I felt pretty good about it when I released it. I'm lucky it went down.
But heartbreak was waiting the Hawkeyes in the regional final. They led UNLV by 19 at halftime, squandered it, and then saw a trip to the Final Four vanish when Kevin Gamble's last-second shot missed the mark.
We knew at halftime that the game was far from over, and because they've been that kind of ball club all year, as have we. And we talked about that, but Vegas came out the second half and just took it to us.
Oh, you know, we had a great year. I think we had a super year, more than anybody ever expected. I think on our team, if you'd have said we'd had 30 wins, they'd have called us crazy.
30-5. That was the high water mark for victories in a season by a Tom Davis Iowa team. But there were other memorable wins. 2 years later, the Hawkeyes handed North Carolina its first loss in the Dean Dome, a game that involved Roy Marble shooting a late key free throw in the place of Ed Horton.
Great win for Tom Davis.
There was no question Eddie Horton was fouled. But Roy said he was the guy that was fouled. And so Eddie just, you know, he just let Roy go. I mean, he just said, you know, fine. And I can understand doing that.
In 1991, a rare victory in Bloomington, Indiana. A James Moses tip-in gave the Hawkeyes an 80-79 victory.
For the rebound, it's tipped in, James Moses, and it counts. It counts. Moses.
Wade Lookingville brought them out of their seats in 93 with this last-second game winner versus Michigan State. And Andre Woolridge drilled a spike in the Spartans' heart in 97.
Well, if you don't believe in the power of God, there it is right there. But basketball works that way.
But two of the biggest wins in Tom Davis's tenure came on the heels of a tragedy that gripped the entire state.
Sure I have. I think I changed with Chris Street's death. I thought that impacted all of us, the emotion of that.
I remember all the times we played basketball, football, wiffle ball, etc. You were my idol. You had it all.
Chris Street was a big, raw-boned, popular player from Indianola. His hustle style of play was contagious. His future was bright. But that all ended January 19th, 93. Chris Street was killed in a car accident. The coach, the team, the state was stunned.
I think Chris represented the intensity of life, the openness of the Midwest, just the ability to get after it.
What makes it even worse than the tragedy of any young person being dead is he was the most alive of anybody.
I think the players that on the Hawkeye team would understand if I said that if we'd ever taken a vote for most popular Hawkeye, Chris Street probably would have won it hands down. And I think it was just because of the way he played the game. He just came to play every night.
The Hawkeyes' first game back was in East Lansing. Nobody was surprised when the Spartans had Iowa down 15 points with 3 minutes left. But something happened. Don't ask what, but something happened. A.C. Earl and Val Barnes led the charge.
That one, Barnes got it. Back over the Iowa Hawkeyes.
In overtime, the Hawkeyes won it 96-90.
What a shot! What a shot!
And I think the way you saw our ball club play tonight, I don't think there's a better tribute to Chris, because that's the way he always played.
Thank you.
3 days later in Iowa City, with Chris Street's parents in attendance, another unbelievable victory. Iowa tops mighty Michigan. At game's end, pent-up emotions overflow. And later, with game ball safely tucked in his right hip, Mike Street talked to reporters.
Chris might have given, and I call him Christopher, so I'll call him Christopher, but anyway, he might have given a little inspiration to these players. Obviously, he probably did. But I'll tell you what, it's the players out there that done it, and they deserve all the credit.
This is unlike anything I've ever seen, and you learn an awful lot about yourself and your staff and your players at the same time, and I'm really proud of what I've learned.
Before the Indiana game, Chris Street's number 40 jersey was retired. Somehow, that Iowa team finished third in the Big Ten and made it 2 games into the NC2A tournament.
I don't think I could overdo the amount of respect that I have for Coach Tom Davis and his players and his program and his university. I don't think there's another coach in this country could have tackled a job that he had at midseason and not only held them together, but in my view, actually improved them.
In the years immediately following, Iowa finished 10th, 7th, and 4th in the Big Ten, and Tom Davis knew the realities.
I think what happens in our profession, to be very frank, is I think critics accumulate. And as a result, the longer you stay, no matter who you are, how good you are, you're going to accumulate a certain number of critics, and then it makes it tougher on us year to year. And then the bottom line is we don't have tenure, that you can be evaluated and released at any time, which is, of course, part of our profession.
But the 96-97 season became one of those magical ones. That was the year that Andre Woolridge carried a bunch of young Hawkeyes on his shoulders. They finished second in the Big Ten, winning games no one gave them a chance to win.
Coaches, the players, I think they've put a team together that's better, having lost more than perhaps any team since I've been in the Big Ten. I told Tom that before the game.
On March 1st, a milestone. The Hawkeyes pound Purdue to give Tom Davis his 500th career victory.
Bob, congratulations on this victory today.
Thank you, John.
You know, I was happy with the win for a lot of reasons. That was down the list, but still felt awfully good.
Wherever I'm at next year, I'll have Coach Davis in the back of my mind yelling at me to do certain things, move without the ball.
I never yell at people.
Play defense. So I just want to thank you, Coach.
I appreciate it.
But storm clouds were on the horizon. Those critics whom Tom Davis knew would accumulate became more vocal. And after a season that ended in a first-round NIT loss, Athletic Director Bob Bowlesby announced that Tom Davis would not be asked to return when his contract was up following the 98-99 season.
I considered everything, Mike. I don't know that I envisioned this, no.
So the die was cast. Tom Davis and all of us knew that 98-99 would be his final go-round as the Iowa head coach. It made for a season of mixed emotions. We'll check it out when we return.
One official was right in front of me Tuesday night. I said, "They're just grabbing a hold of the guy. They're pushing and shoving," and I said, "That, you know, they can't do that." He says, "We'll let your guys do the same thing."
Surrounding Kinnick Stadium during the fall of 1998 were hundreds of Hokey Pokey banners. Little did we know that those banners would be more apropos for the basketball season. Tom Davis's final fling at Iowa.
I think what my focus is going to be on this team, on my job, on my staff. So I'm just not going to let it distract me, and therefore I don't think it'll be a problem for them. They'll just take their key from the way I handle things, and hey, this is what we're going to do. Let's have some fun with it, and let's get after it.
The players and coaches took that lead and started strong. They won 13 of their first 14. There was an 11-game winning streak, and they jumped to 12th in the national polls. The biggest of the early wins came at Kansas. The Jayhawks were ranked 8th in the country and had won 62 straight at home and led Iowa by 18. But the Hawkeyes came back to win it. And lo and behold, shades of Hayden Fry. They danced the Hokey Pokey.
You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
Well, that performance caught the eye of none other than just retired football coach Hayden Fry. He, of course, the one who had brought the pokey to Iowa, and he thought the basketball team needed some pointers.
And you deserve it. But when you celebrate, you got to do it. You got to shine and polish a little bit on your hokey pokey. When you put your left foot in, that's what you do. You put your left foot in. So when you take your left foot out, and you take it out back here. Then you put your left foot in, and then you shake it all about. Okay? All right. All right. Now, after you say that, then anything you want to add to it, as far as circling around and so forth.
1 month later, the Hawkeyes had a chance to apply what Hayden Fry had passed on. A 71-68 win at Columbus was another reason to dance.
Right foot in, you put your right foot out, you put your right foot in, and you shake it all about. Hey, you do a hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
The Hawkeye success, combined with the impending Davis ouster, made a natural story for the national media. Sports Illustrated, USA Today, and ESPN picked up on it.
But now Dr. Tom Davis' imminent departure has many basketball fans across the state demanding a recount.
I appreciate the support, but it's not something that I'm campaigning for, or I'm just doing my job.
A December newspaper quote from Iowa Athletic Director Bob Bowlesby infuriated Davis backers, but Tom's reaction was typical.
Disappointed and hurt, and I'll keep my focus the way it has been and keep doing what we're doing.
That may have been his strongest public statement on the situation.
Is that just the way you want it to be?
Look for the good in other people, and if things aren't the way you want them, bite your lip, you know, and get on with it. And I think you get more done that way. I think you're a better person to be around.
He's the kind of person who just is, looks on the bright side. He's very generous, very gracious. When he wins, he's humble, and he's just a lesson for all of us in handling a very difficult situation.
The season was also marked by the return of 60-year senior Jess Settles. He missed only 2 games and seemed to get stronger as the season progressed. Transfer Sam Hawkey also showed moments of brilliance, but 7 games after his season began in January, it was over with a broken wrist. A final high point came on senior night. Tom Davis had requested no special recognition for himself, and there was none. But after a big blowout victory over Northwestern, the players took control and left everybody with a great memory.
It was very emotional, but I think the players sensed and knew that this was a big game for a lot of reasons. For our seniors, for the team, and certainly I'm a part of the team, so it was important to a lot of us.
The Hawks finished 9-7 in the Big Ten, tied for 3rd.
I'm very appreciative of how hard this team worked. That was not easy for us to get to a tie for 3rd place in this league. I'm telling you right now, you look at our ball club, that was not easy to get there where we were tied with Wisconsin and Indiana.
Proud of his team? Yes. Bitter about his situation? We can only speculate. Will we ever know? Maybe.
When the whole thing's over, you know, I'll try to make some sense out of it and see what I think. It probably won't be as entertaining as a high porch picnic, but
Tom Davis went out in style. He took the Hawkeyes to the Sweet 16 thanks to an inspiring win over Arkansas. Things looked bleak early in the second half when Arkansas led by 13, but Kent McCausland hit 3 straight threes. Iowa went on a 16-point run, and when it was all over, the Hawkeyes were 82-72 victors, and the pictures tell the story. Way to go, huh?
Speechless.
That was a neat night. Unfortunately, they ran into UConn at the Sweet 16, and a 78-68 loss sent the Hawkeyes to the sideline. When we return, we'll hear from the young man who played for Tom Davis.
The fun of coaching is to try to put all the pieces together in a way that really fits, and sometimes you hit it on the nose. Sometimes you struggle, but you're not able to quite get the team going the way you want them to go.
According to the dictionary, a coach is a person who instructs players in the fundamentals of competitive sport and directs team strategy. Tom Davis filled that bill and more, according to the young man who played for him. And many returned to Iowa City the night Iowa battled the Buckeyes.
It was great. It was really great. I was totally surprised, and I walked out of the tunnel onto the floor, and that's the first I knew that they were coming. And the more I thought about it, the more I appreciated it.
I enjoyed him. You know, if it wasn't for Tom Davis, you know, Kevin Campbell wouldn't have a 10, 11-year career in the NBA.
He came in saying, you guys were here, and I'm going to let you guys have input, and we'll just work together. And that was great. I mean, when you're 19 years old, you have, you know, the coach asking you for input. That was like a tremendous thing, so we loved him.
When you get to big-time college athletics, I think sometimes the coaches lose track of that each player is a person. That was one thing that Coach Davis always did. I think he really cared about you as a person, as a student.
He got the most out of his players whenever we were here playing. I wasn't heavily recruited, so just coming in, he helped me to be a better person and a better player at the same time.
That's the one thing about him. Like I said, he's always teaching, and I think in the last few years being away from it, I see it more, see him teaching more.
I played for like a lot of coaches in my career, and Tom ranked him on the best, you know. And I mean, I learned a lot from him, you know, as far as on and off the court, and it's something that I'll never forget, and I always respect him for that.
I spent more time with Coach than I do with my parents, and you know, just to try to win for him has been my goal. But anytime a guy gives you a shot to play D1 basketball, you're very loyal to that, and we've had a great relationship.
Playing for Coach it's been great. You know,
I'll fight for him until the death, and I'll do anything I can, for him. So it's been a special season, knowing it's his last one, it's my last one, and it's been special that way, and it's been sad that way at the same time.
It was really nice. It makes you appreciate what you've been doing and why you've been doing it.
Tom Davis never sought out the spotlight, but of course the spotlight found him in his role as the coach of a Big Ten basketball team. All too well, he knew the realities of his profession. The reality being, what have you done for me lately? Even at such a pressure cooker, Tom Davis was a credit to the university and to the state. He ran a clean program and cared about his kids. Many feel he will continue to coach. I hope so. Tom Davis is a good man, a good coach, a class act. We wish him well.
See you guys. All right. See you, Jim. See you, Jerry.
We talked a little bit yesterday that this might be the last time, or this could be every one of these days, this could be the last this or the last that. I think it's important that players recognize that put a lot of feeling into it, put a lot of energy into it. This could be the last press conference, the last time we get to go to the North Gym, could be the last of that. Some good memories of that place and stuff like that. So I think you appreciate what you're doing more when you think like that.